Everyone loves a good trade. It was trade deadline day. The rumors were swirling. Erik Karlsson could be moved. The possibility of it was hyped up all day. Then, quite expectedly I might add, nothing happened. No real surprise. A blockbuster like that doesn't happen very often. But what kind of a return would the greatest offensive D-man of this generation garner? Troy Brouwer and a bucket of chicken? Or maybe Zemgus Girgensons and some luxury hand cream. The possibilities were endless. Once the Ottawa Senators, see the light and fire Pierre Dorion and hire me instead, and when I start shopping Erik Karlsson, I'm sure Ottawa fans will be infuriated. So, in all fairness, for the sake of this video, I will trade Erik Karlsson to every other team in the NHL, so that everybody may be equally infuriated by my incompetence. That's right, 30 trades. Here we go. Welcome to trading Erik Karlsson. And just note before I begin that every trade will work within the confines of the salary cap at the time the video goes up. Establishing the value for Karlsson is very difficult. A basis of comparison would have to be the Ryan McDonagh trade. Even though Karlsson would bring in more assets back, it's a good starting point. Okay, so with this in mind, trades are going to consist of at least one or two top 6 forwards or top 4 defensemen, 2 or 3 B to A- prospects, and multiple first-round picks. There's going to be varying combinations of this throughout the video. So don't worry, there's going to be lots of time for you guys to dissect this and tell me how I am completely overvalue or undervalue Karlsson. So and or any other player I include in the trade. So this should be interesting, if nothing more. We'll do this in alphabetical order. So we'll start with the Anaheim Ducks. So the first trade is Erik Karlsson to the Anaheim Ducks for Brandon Montour, Ondrej Kase, Kevin Bieksa, Max Jones, and first-round picks in both 2018, 2019, and a second in 2018. Now, when it comes to the players involved, Montour is a great young D-man that can rush the puck. Kase has shown he has a good scoring touch and he's pretty tenacious on the puck. He's a good complementary winger. Max Jones is a really, really good prospect. He's about 6'3", has just over 200 pounds. He compares to like a Chris Kreider or a Milan Lucic. BX is just there to wash some salary. He makes $4 million, but he's a free agent at the end of the year. The couple first-round picks are pretty self-explanatory, although they will be mid to late in the draft in all likelihood. So there it is. Karlsson to Anaheim. Arizona is up next. So, Ottawa trades Karlsson to Arizona for Max Domi, Alex Goligoski, Pierre-Olivier Joseph, Nick Merkley, Aiden Hill, the 2018 first-round pick, and seconds in 2019 and 2020. Okay, so some of the reasoning behind this, obviously, Max Domi is having an off year. It has had an off year the last couple of years. The glamour is kind of off his game lately. I think a change of scenery would do him a lot of good. Alex Goligoski signed till 2021. Once again, trading salaries. He's a good player, always produces. Not on Karlsson's level, but obviously could help the team. Pierre-Olivier Joseph is a good all-around D-man prospect. Ryan Suter style of defenseman. Nick Merkley, great playmaker, great vision. Projects as like a number 1 or number 2 center, somewhere a top 6 guy at the very least. And Aiden Hill is a big goaltender, 6'4", and he's got some potential there as well. And once again, the picks are self-explanatory. So, Karlsson to Arizona. The Boston Bruins are all loaded up to go this year. What would make them better, though? Erik Karlsson, no doubt, would make them a lot better. So, what would I ask for if I was the Ottawa GM would be Torrey Krug, who signed until 2019-2020. He's a great offensive D. Adam McQuaid, who's just a salary dump for the Bruins. He signed until 2019. Anders Bjork, good young player, a little rough around the edges, but he's a great top 9 guy, and would fit in with the youth movement that's going to happen in Ottawa. Jakob Zaburel is a great prospect, does everything well. 2019 and 2020 firsts and 2018 seconds. Now, it sounds like a lot, but Boston, like I said, is in a win-now mode, and I'm banking on them valuing the present more than the future. Now, the Buffalo Sabres are a rebuilding team still. So I can't see them giving up prospects and picks, but if something was to go down, I expect something like this to occur. So to the Ottawa Senators would go Rasmus Ristolainen. He's a good young defenseman, still running out his overall game, but still has he has a pretty good ceiling. Zemgus Girgensons has stagnated hard in Buffalo, but I figure maybe a change of scenery may do him good, so he'd be a nice throw-in. Linus Ullmark, middle-of-the-road goalie prospect, nothing spectacular. 2019 and 2020 first-round picks and a 2019 second. And the rights to Rasmus Asplund. He's a solid prospect and projects as a good two-way player. So there it is. Karlsson to Buffalo for all that. The Calgary Flames are also a team that's building for the now. So with that in mind, the trade would look something along the lines of Hamonic going back to Ottawa. He's a great stay-at-home defenseman. Good top four guy. Sam Bennett, top 9 forward, who seems to be figuring it all out this year, finally. Tyler Parsons, he's a good goalie prospect, but he's had a rough first year as a pro, splitting time between the ECHL and the AHL. Oliver Collington is a very good D prospect, projects as a top 4 guy, good shot from the point, two-way defenseman, and the first-round picks in 2019 and 2020. So it's quite a few assets, but I think Karlsson's worth it. Just to put this in perspective, if a trade like this went down, Calgary's top 4 would be Karlsson, Dougley Hamilton, Giordano, and TJ Brody. Arguably probably the best top 4 in the NHL, period. So there is that as well. Anyway, Calgary picks up Karlsson for all that. Now, Carolina's one of those teams that seems to be just on the cusp of being great. So, with that in mind, Erik Karlsson could do nothing but help that. So the trade would consist of Justin Falk going back to Ottawa. He's a great top 4 defenseman, good guy in the power play. Joachim Nordstrom, bottom 6 guy. He's just there to help Carolina absorb the salary of Karlsson. Jake Bean is a great deep prospect that is very calm with the puck. Does everything well, so be a great top 4 prospect going forward. Yanni Kokkonen, playmaking center, who was a great first year in pro. Played a couple games with Carolina this year. The 2018 and 2019 first-round picks as well will go back to Ottawa. That's it's quite a bit. But Karlsson would join a D-core that includes Noah Hannafin, Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce. Maybe that's the one move that will push Carolina over the hump. You never know. Anyway, Carolina picks up Karlsson for all that. Oh, the Blackhawks. Now, they've had quite a run, but what if they wanted to try to add Karlsson to go for it again over the next, say, year or two? Here's what it would have to look like as far as I'm concerned. So, the main thing is you cannot rob the Hawks' current roster outside of this one player, Brandon Saad. It has to be focused around him. So the Sens take on what the mistake that trading for Saad was, essentially. Right? Maybe he finds his game again in Ottawa, turns into a 50, 60-point player again. That would be best case scenario. He is signed till 2021, so it is a bit of a commitment overall, but this is what it would have to start with. Afterwards, Ottawa would essentially strip whatever was left in Chicago's prospect cupboard, starting with Gustav Forsling. Now, he's only 21, and he's already a regular on the Hawks' blue line. Luke Snuggerud, another deep prospect. He had a good college career. We'll see how it translates into the pros. And the rights for Chad Chris. Now, Chad is a smooth-skating, puck-moving D-man. He's essentially a high-risk, high-reward type of prospect. Either things are going to work out or things are not. Right? Also, the 2018 and 2019 first-round picks. And the 2018 first round is going to be pretty high. So, it's a steep price to pay, but this is what would have to come back at least to get Karlsson. Now, Columbus already has a great young D-core in Jones and Werenski, but adding Karlsson would give them insane depth to work with. So, here's what I'm asking for from Ottawa. The deal has to start with Jack Johnson. Is he perfect? No. But salary for salary, and overall it makes the deal work. Boone Jenner is next up. He's a good hard-nosed center or winger that can slot in almost anywhere into your top 9. Maybe he can find his goal-scoring touch again with someone in Ottawa. You never know. So, the main piece I want is Vitaly Abramov. He's an undersized winger with insane puck skills, who does everything in the offensive zone very well. He lit up the Q the last couple years. He has this nasty tendency of skating with his head down through the middle of the ice. So he's almost been clipped pretty hard a couple times. He's got to work on that. The only other thing I may ask for, which isn't actually included in the trade, if they were willing to give it up, would be Erik Karlsson, 6'5", stay-at-home D prospect. I don't expect they would, but also the 2018 and 2019 firsts are almost a must. So there's the deal for Karlsson going to Columbus. Next up are the Colorado Avalanche. So the deal would start with huge Nikita Zadorov, who's really starting to find his game with Colorado. Also, an inconsistent, injury-prone Semyon Varlamov that I can't expect is in the long-term plans of the Avalanche, so he's included to make the salary work. Mike Condon will go back to Colorado to give them a serviceable goaltender outside of Jonathan Bernier. Also, I'd want the recently acquired Vladislav Klemenev. He's a big NHL-ready forward prospect. Jean-Christophe Baudin, a good playmaking forward who I feel is being mishandled by the Avalanche. He projects as a good top-9 forward guy. He has a great work ethic. Connor Timmins, defense prospect whose stock has been skyrocketing lately. He signed his entry-level deal on March 2nd. The 2018 and 2019 first-round picks as well. Now, once again, it's a steep price, but that gives Colorado a deep defensive core with regards to an offensive punch. Karlsson on first pairing, probably with Erik Johnson. And then in the second pair, you follow with Tyson Barrie. So, two good puck movers that can get that puck up to McKinnon and Rantanen fairly quickly. It gives them a quick strike offense. So, I think it would be a really good thing. You lose some toughness from the back end, but at the end of the day, like I said, that's the cost of doing business. So that's Karlsson to Colorado. The Dallas Stars has been trying to find the right mix for a while now, so Erik Karlsson couldn't hurt. So the first thing I'd want is Radek Faksa. He's a big, physical forward with good hockey sense. He can play up and down the lineup anywhere within your top 9. Next is Esa Lindell, good young demon with lots of room to grow. Denis Gurianov, forward prospect. He's had 2 mediocre years in the AHL, but his offensive ceiling is off the charts. The right's to Colton Point. He's a good goalie prospect. That would still leave Jake Ottinger in the Dallas Stars pipeline, so that really doesn't hurt them all that much. 2019 and 2019 first-round picks, and the 2019 second. Overall, this trade would give Dallas a 1-2 punch of Karlsson and Klingberg, which would be filthy. Right? And so there you are. Dallas gets Karlsson for all that. You really start to realize how much Ken Holland has handcuffed the next GM of the Detroit Red Wings. Especially when you see how many no-move clauses are littered throughout their roster. So, with that in mind, as the Ottawa GM, drastic measures must be taken. I'll take Johan Franzen's contract off their hands, just as a favor. But along with that, I'll take the speedy forward, Andreas Athanasiou. When it comes to prospects, I'm honing in on their towering Michael Rasmussen, who's having another great year in the Western Hockey League. Billy Sarajärvi, an offensive D prospect who rushes the puck well, projects as a top 6 guy. Axel Holmstrom projects as a bottom 6 forward. And I want their 2018 first-round pick as well as the Vegas' 2018 first-round pick. It's an expensive haul, but that's the cost of doing business. The Oilers could really use Erik Karlsson on the team. Like, really use him. Chris Russell anywhere near the team lead in points should tell you something. With that in mind, Ottawa trades Karlsson to Edmonton for Ryan Strome, just a complimentary scoring winner, helps with the cap hit. Ethan Bear, a good deep prospect that reminds me a lot of Johnny Oduya. He's good at everything, but amazing at nothing. Dmitry Samarikov, a good-sized D prospect with an absolute cannon from the point. Tyler Benson, who's a high-energy forward with some offensive upside. And 2018-19 first-round picks and 2018 second-round pick. Florida seems to be a bubble team. So, to shake up the system, Ottawa trades Erik Karlsson to Florida for Mark Pysyk, who's just a top 6D, fills in a hole. Jarrett McCann, a good young two-way forward with some great potential. Owen Tippett, who's just a pure goal scorer that has drawn comparisons to Phil Kessel. They get the rights to Max Gilden. At 6'3", he's a horse on defense who's having a great year in the NCAA. The rights to Riley Stillman, a son of Corey Stillman, ex-NHLer. He's a D prospect of the OHL, projects as a bottom 4 defenseman with some offensive upside. And, as always, the 2018 and 2019 first-round picks for Florida. Ottawa and the Kings now have a history of trading D-men, with the Phaneuf trade. Ignoring the fact that there's no way in God's green earth they could afford both Karlsson and Doughty, the Ottawa Senators trade Erik Karlsson to the Kings for Jake Muzzin, who's a great top 4 D-man, and also in the prime of his career. Tobias Reeder, a bottom 6 forward included to balance money going out versus money coming in. Jared Aronson Dolan, 18-year-old center. He's having a great year with Spokane in the Western Hockey League. Kyle Clegg, an offensive D-man that just oozes potential. Stepan Falkovsky, a monster D prospect at 6'7". He already shows a balanced game and has potential to develop into a defensive force if things go well. The 2018-19 first-round picks, obviously, and the 2018 second-round pick. Now, like I said, this probably would not happen, obviously, for obvious reasons. The Kings would look terrifying with that back end, though. There's not a roster in the NHL that Karlsson wouldn't be better, and the Minnesota Wild are included in that. So, Ottawa trades Karlsson to the Wild for Jonas Brodin, who's a good young top 4 D-man with some potential to boot. Tyler Ennis, a forward included to balance salary. He can play up and down the lineup, but he's been pretty ineffective the last 2 or 3 years. Luke Cunnin, a forward prospect that has the potential to develop into offensive force. He has spent some time in Minnesota this year. And the rights to Kirill Kaprizov, a 20-year-old Russian prospect who scored at nearly a point per game pace in the KHL this year. So, a lot of offensive prospects included. The next 3 first-round picks as well would have to come back to Ottawa. Now, I understand it's a pretty steep price, but adding Karlsson to a blue line with Ryan Suter already would make them a nightmare to play against. Montreal's going through a bit of a crisis this year. Are they rebuilding? Aren't they? Who knows? So Bergevin trades Karlsson just because. Back to Ottawa goes Alex Galchenyuk, a top 6 forward who never really did find his place in Montreal. Coaches didn't really see eye to eye with him for the most part. He's a pretty good forward, good offensive instincts with a good shot. David Schlemko, top 6 defenseman, included to send salary back to Ottawa. Victor Mete, a 19-year-old who was one of the lone bright spots in the offseason for the Habs, but this is the cost of getting a top-tier D-man. Nikita Sherbak, an enigmatic forward prospect who has shown flashes of what he could be, but hasn't really put it all together yet. Rights to Joni Ikonen, skilled playmaking forward with great vision and on-ice decision-making. And, of course, the 2018 and 19 first-round picks and the 2018 second. Now, Montreal would be depleted up front after this. They had trouble scoring this year without Galchenyuk, depending if they didn't add anybody in free agency or if a prospect didn't step up. I'd have a hard time believing they'd be able to score next year with that kind of problem. But the decor wouldn't be bad. Looked kind of pretty with Karlsson, Weber, and Petrie. So, you never know. Now Nashville. This would make it unfair, to be quite honest. This one was hard to do up. So, Karlsson goes to Nashville for Ryan Ellis, first of all. Great top 4 point-producing defenseman. Already in his prime. Has a great beard. Craig Smith. Good, hard-working forward that can play up and down the lineup. Play anywhere in your top line right down to your third-line grinder. Alexander Carrier. A great young defenseman. With some offensive flair, has great playmaking ability along with a bomb of a shot. Projects as like a top 4 Ryan Ellis style defenseman. Along, Nashville would send their 2019 and 2020 first round picks, a 2019 second and a 2018 third. Pittsburgh's third rounder in 2019 would go back to Nashville in compensation. That would leave Nashville with the top 4 of Karlsson, Subban, Josi, and Ekholm. That's ridiculous. Pekka Rinne may never even see a shot against again. New Jersey's enjoyed an unexpectedly great year, so why not add Erik Karlsson for a playoff run? Karlsson goes to the Devils for Ben Lovejoy, just for cap reasons. Mirko Mueller, an okay young D prospect that hasn't topped out quite yet. When it comes to prospects, Ottawa's going to pick up Michael McLeod, a 6'2", highly skilled power forward. He's a top talent already who's hard to contain due to a mixture of size and skill. John Quenville, a versatile and talented forward with offensive upside. Mackenzie Blackwood, a great goalie prospect that projects as a starting goaltender in the NHL. New Jersey's 2018 and 2019 first-round picks, along with their 2019 and 2020 second-round picks. Going back to New Jersey, Chris Driedger goes just for contract reasons. So, along with Vatanen, this would give New Jersey a more rounded decor, but the price would hurt. The New York Rangers have never been scared to make a big deal. And despite the fact they've said they're rebuilding, I'm going to trade the Rangers' Erik Karlsson for Matt Zuccarello, who's an undersized top six forward with a great contract. Kevin Hayes, a big, inconsistent center, who has a little bit of a scoring touch. Those two guys moved out, matched the salary. Anthony DeAngelo, an offensive D-man who's a boom or bust project. He could either be a great defenseman in the NHL or he could be a career AHLer. It's all up to him at this point. Sean Day has an elite skills and projects as an NHL D-man, but his consistency will dictate whether he's a great one or just a serviceable one. And Alexander Georgiev, a Russian goaltender prospect, and he saw some action with the Rangers this year. When it comes to picks, the 2018 first round from Boston and the first from Tampa Bay will go to Ottawa. The 2019 second round pick from Tampa Bay will also go to Ottawa, as long as the Rangers own 2020 second round pick. Now, this replaces McDonough, but it's not the direction the Rangers are going. Will John Tavares stay? Well, there might be a better chance if he has Erik Karlsson zipping the puck up to him. So, Karlsson to the Islanders. First thing happens, swap Nick Leddy, good top 4 D-man that can move the puck as well. Sebastian Aho, a smaller D prospect, very mobile, good read of the game. Kiefer Bellows, who's the son of ex-NHLer Brian Bellows. He's a skilled power forward with a great release, star in the making. Linus Soderstrom, a great goaltending prospect with good size, playing over HV71 this year. Mitch Van Sompel, undersized but dynamic offensive D-man. He really needs to work on his play in his own zone, but he has the potential to really light it up. Also, the 2018 first-round pick, 2018 second, came from Calgary, 2018 third, and the 2019 second, also Calgary's. There you go. There it is. Karlsson to the Islanders. Now, Philadelphia already has a good offensive defenseman in a Shane Gostisbehere. However, having Erik Karlsson on the back end will only make them better. So, to make this work, salary-wise, Ottawa would have to take back Andrew McDonald. A good top 6 guy, but has a really, really bad contract. The same goes for Dale Weiss. Bottom 6 guy is paid like a top 9 guy. So that balances the salary. When it comes to getting prospects back, Travis Sanheim would have to go to Ottawa. A great defensive prospect. Projects as a top 4 guy. German Rubstov, who's more of a pest who can score, which is very intriguing, but he should project as a top 6 forward as well. Carter Hart has a real coming out party the last couple of years. He backstopped Canada and the World Juniors. He projects as a top-end goaltender. The 2018 first-round pick, which is originally from St. Louis, and the 2019 first-round pick. So you got 3 first-round picks, a top-end defensive prospect, a top-end goaltending prospect, and another good forward prospect for Erik Karlsson. There you go. Karlsson to Philly. Pittsburgh has back-to-back cups. Karlsson wouldn't hurt their chances at a third. So, Karlsson to the Pens for Olli Mata, a top 4 D-man, has good skills, very good positionally. Carl Hagelin, he comes over to balance the cap. He's a speedster that can play in the top 9. Daniel Sprong, a dynamic offensive force and has a terrific upside. A great skater and puck handler. Has seen some time with Pittsburgh this year. Projects as a top-line winger. Jordy Bell-Reeve, a center prospect whose point totals exploded in the Western Hockey League as an 18-year-old. He has to work on his overall game, but he looks to be a top 6 potential forward. Teddy Bluger projects as a bottom 6 defensively responsible forward. And also the picks, 2019 and 2020 firsts, and the 2018 and 2019 second-round picks. Now, Pittsburgh would have 2 elite puck movers on the roster if this was to happen, in Karlsson and Letang, but the chances of what's listed here getting it done are far-fetched. Now, San Jose Sharks already have Brent Burns, but having 2 elite defensemen is better than 1, right? So, Karlsson to San Jose for defenseman Brendan Dillon, solid physical D-man. Melker Karlsson, bottom 6 forward, he just balances out the money situation. Big one, the big get is prospect Jeremy Waugh. Highly touted D prospect in his first year of pro hockey. He drawed comparisons to Duncan Keith in his draft year, so he'd be quite the prospect to pick up. Maxime Lutunov, a big center, currently playing for the University of Connecticut. Jaden Halbigawaks, say that 5 times fast. He's only 5'8", has insane offensive upside. Just put it in perspective, he has 120 goals in his last 143 Western Hockey League games. In other words, I think he has sleeper written all over him. Rights to Mario Ferraro, a good smallish D prospect. He can skate. He's currently playing in the NCAA. 2018 and 2019 first round picks. 2020 first second round pick. And I know it's like once again it's quite the haul to give up. But with that kind of a trade, the Sharks get the ability to make a few more legitimate runs at a cup. The Sharks would also get Tommy Pyatt in return to help shore up that center position, probably a fourth line center. Like I said, it gives you a chance to get another couple runs at a cup, but they mortgage their future in order to do so. So, like I said, it's a give and take. Now, the St. Louis Blues, as far as I'm concerned, need to shore up their goaltending before anything else. So, for fun, I'm going to throw this trade out there. You're actually going to get 2 for the Blues. So, in the first one, St. Louis gets Erik Karlsson, Craig Anderson, Tommy Pyatt, Columbus's 2020 third-round pick, all for Colton Parayko, Jake Allen. The fact that the Senators take on Jake Allen gets the Blues out from underneath the contract that lasts till 2021. He's been inconsistent. There's been signs that the Blues are losing patience with his game. Next would be Vladimir Sobotka. He's included to make the deal work cap-wise. He's making just over $3 million. Klim Kostin is a big Russian power forward that can really skate. Petteri Lindholm is a Swedish depth D-man, just a throw-in. 2018 for Winnipeg first-round pick and the 2018 second-round pick. So overall, with this deal, St. Louis gets better in the here and now, being able to roll Karlsson and Pietrangelo one right after the other, along with a consistent veteran presence in goal in Anderson. Whose numbers haven't really faltered very much, and despite the fact that Ottawa's had not a very good year this year, he's been consistent. Or if St. Louis wants to keep the current situation between the pipes and retain Parayko, here's what you could do there. So you have Karlsson and Claesson going back to the Blues, and a 2020 third-round pick for Carl Gunnarsson, Vladimir Sobotka, Vince Dunn, a 21-year-old prospect, D prospect that's been seeing full-time action with the Blues this year. Klim Kostin again has to be included if I'm the Senators. Also, the rights to Nolan Stevens, a big 6'3" center who's had a great NCAA career. He's recently served as a captain of Northeastern University this past season, so he'd be a great prospect, I think, to pick up. Also, the 2018 first-round pick, that would be Winnipeg's first-round pick. 2019 first-round pick and the 2018 second. So the second one was also building for the future when it comes to Ottawa, more so. There were rumors that Tampa was heavily into Karlsson before they snagged McDonough. So the price must have been way too much for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But for this exercise, I'm going to trade Karlsson to Tampa. In addition to Magnus Pajärvi, cheap bottom six forward for the Lightning. Ville Pokka, a prospect D-man, hasn't really found his game in anywhere else he's been, but he had decent numbers in the AHL, and he's working on his D game still. 4, Andre Palat. He's a great player. That plays anywhere in your top 9. Great defensive guy. Can put in some goals as well. Just essentially you need to put him in for the cap hit. He's making $5.5 million versus Karlsson $6.5. Andre Schuster, a towering D-man that has his good games and his bad games. He never did develop as they thought he would. Erik Karlsson, a return to Ottawa for Eric as a bottom six forward. Once again, just relieving some of the cap hit. Now we get into the meat of the trade. Dominic Machine, a good young D prospect. He's really steady. He's smooth. He compares to a younger Ryan McDonough. Projects as a top 4 guy. Mitchell Stevens, prospect that does a lot of things really well. Has a relentless forecheck, really hard the puck, and has the versatility of being able to play both center and left wing. So he'd be a good pickup as well. Now, the big guy for me, and he's a big boomer bust guy, would be Oleg Sasunov. He's a hulking 6'8", 240-pound D prospect. He's a project, obviously, but is pretty mobile for a big guy. Could be the Sens' next Chara if his development goes the right way. Also, the 2019 first-round pick, seconds in 2018 and 2020, and the 2018 fourth-rounder. So with that trade, Tampa still has a deep offensive core, along with a defense group that boasts Karlsson, Hedman, Strawman, and Sergachev. When it comes to the Maple Leafs, they're not going to be too keen on giving up any of their big three. So I think I put together a deal that maybe gets it done. If anything, the Leafs would have to add maybe another B prospect to push it over the top, but I think this is maybe just enough. So to Leafs get Karlsson, obviously, Jim O'Brien, and a 2020 fourth-round pick for Jake Gardiner, a smooth skating D-man. Despite the hate he gets in Leafland, he's gotten more than 40 points each of the last 2 years and is a plus player over that time as well. So, good, solid top four guy. Connor Brown, good forward, has a great work ethic. He can play up and down the lineup. He scored 20 goals last year. He's on pace for 15 or 20 this year. So there's Connor Brown. Timothy Liljegren, great offensive defensive prospect that can really skate. He needs to work on playing his own end, but he projects as a top four guy who can really put up the points. Carl Grundstrom, he's played for London this year and the SHL and played very well. So he's a tenacious player that can play the PK and chip in offensively. And as always, the Leafs will have to give up their 2018 and 2019 first-round picks. So maybe that gets it done. The only other thing maybe that the Leafs could throw in would be like an Emily Rasanen, one of the defensemen they took in last year's draft. He has quite a bit of upside, so I think him adding in really wouldn't hurt the case at all. On to another Canadian city we go. So I have, to Vancouver goes Karlsson, Tommy Pyatt, and Danny Taylor. For Ben Hutton, a 2A D-man that can really skate well. Had a train wreck of a year, but maybe a change of scenery does him good. Sam Gagner, a veteran forward that can play in the top 9, making just over $3 million until 2020. Anders Nilsson, big goalie who shows flashes, but has been wildly consistent over his career. Jonathan Dahlin, a pure offensive threat that has great on-ice vision, coming off a great year at Timrå. The rights to Adam Gaudette, a good all-round forward prospect, very versatile. His last 2 years at Northeastern University, for example, he's put up 112 points in 74 games. Very impressive. Also, I'd like to have the rights to Nikita Triamkin. If the big Russian defenseman ever decides to come back to the NHL, I want a crack at him if I'm Ottawa. Also, obviously, the 2018 and 2019 first-round picks. The fact that a lot of these firsts I've been including in these trades have a chance at landing the first overall, and because of that, Rasmus Dahlin is enough reason as an opposing GM not to trade them. So a lot of these would get squashed right there, but you can find workarounds, I'm sure. Vegas' name keeps popping up as a possible landing spot for Karlsson as well. So, in this trade, Vegas gets Erik Karlsson, prospect Marcus Hogberg, 23-year-old goaltender, Jim O'Brien, for Clayton Stoner, who's essentially a cap dump, Oscar Lindberg, a good forward that helps offset some of the salary as well, Eric Brandstrom is a high-end offensive D prospect, great future power play quarterback, thinks the offensive game very well. Oscar Dansk, an NHL-ready goalie prospect with a big frame. Nick Suzuki, shifty, skilled center iceman, projects as a first or second line center. And the 2019-2020 first-round picks, 2018 second, and a 2019 second. Now, this trade, Vegas would get their superstar to market in Karlsson, but the future is bright, and with all the talent in the pipeline, and they're even winning now, so there's no reason to really rock the boat. Washington's just one of those teams that seems to be a contender every year, but just falls short in the playoffs. Having Erik Karlsson couldn't hurt their chances of doing better. So, in that vein, Karlsson goes to Washington, along with Mark Borowiecki and Mike Condon, for Dmitry Orlov, good all-around D-man, plays with an edge, has some offensive upside. He's signed for the next 6 years. Brooks Orpik, a cap dump, pure and simple, making $5.5 million until 2019. Ottawa gives Borowiecki to replace him in the Caps blue line. Philip Grubauer, one of the better backups over the last couple of years. He could be a potential starter and replacement for Anderson. Lucas Johansson, he's not a huge offensive threat, but does a lot of things very well. Projects as an all-around top 4 guy. This is the big thing I want if I'm Ottawa. The rights to Ilya Samsonov. The best goalie not in the NHL right now. Another amazing year in the KHL. He's an almost guaranteed starter, but goalie prospects have a tendency to be hard to gauge as well, so anything's possible. Now when it comes to the picks, the 2018 first-round pick, Florida's 2018 second, 2019 second-round pick, and the 2020 third would have to come back. All this is a high price to pay, but Ovi needs his cup. And adding Karlsson, while him, Backstrom, and Holtby are still in their prime, means forsaking the future a little bit. And finally, we have the Winnipeg Jets. Now, they already have a deep blue line, so the trade have to look something like this, I think. So to the Jets goes Erik Karlsson, Tommy Pyatt, and prospect Billy Polka. To Ottawa goes Jacob Trouba. Now, he had some contract issues before with Winnipeg, but he, after being traded, would be an immediate top pairing guy for Ottawa. He's a smooth skating, big-bodied guy that does everything well. Next would be Andrew Kopp. He's a bottom six forward with an incredibly solid two-way game. Sami Niku, a D prospect that exploded offensively in his first year of pro hockey. Reminds me of Tobias Enstrom in a way. He has top six defenseman potential. Jansen Harkins, hard-working two-way center, has good playmaking ability, a bit of a project, but a great player to have in the organization. Writes to Christian Vesalainen. He's a big forward that plays up an up-tempo game. Has a heavy release and is really strong on the puck. He projects as a top six forward. And finally, for picks, Winnipeg would have to give up their 2019 first, their 2019 second, and their 2020 second. Now, Winnipeg was already a cup contender without him, but with Karlsson and Buffalo patrolling the blue line in the playoffs for 50 minutes in the game, the opposing teams would no doubt be definitely in tough. So there you have it. Erik Karlsson getting booted out of town 30 times. But what do you guys think? I want you guys to put your offers down in the comments. As always, tell me how I'm wrong. And everyone, have a great day.